Welcome to the Occult Rejects. This episode, we got a new guest coming on. They haven't been here before. We got the Esoteric Archives, some Canadian dudes over here, and they're going to be covering remote viewing and MKultra. But before we get to them, let me introduce the other rejects. We got the Loon, Judith. What is going on, Judith? How are you?
Hi, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. You could catch me on YouTube and on X as the Loon. I just had my live on journaling, and I probably have a special coming up for Valentine's Day for all you lovers out there.
Nice. I'll have to check that out. Awesome. Very nice. And thank you for joining us, Judith. So always appreciate it. I love that you're also into the conspiracy stuff. You know what sucks? I really wish we would have had that discussion when we knew each other personally. Because I don't think we knew any of that really about each other at all. I'm like, damn, all these conversations we could have had. You know what I'm saying?
Depending where you are, you choose when and who to have that conversation with. If I don't get that hint, I'm not gonna have that conversation.
Yeah. When I was there, I was afraid to say anything to anybody, honestly. So, but yeah, thank you for joining. And we also got Jin the Ninja.
What's up, Mr. 93? Thanks, boss. Appreciate it so much. And it's great to see, of course, Judith again. I'm going to actually change it up a little bit. And because Frater RC said that I didn't give my show a good preview. He didn't say this, but I got the feeling that maybe I wasn't previewing my show the way that I should be. So I'll go back to the old school style of doing it. So I have a show called Threshold Saints. It's serial experiments in speculative ontology, a terminally online occult audio e-zine, and an esoteric Hapaborean deep cut. So basically, you can check me out. I'm calling it a chaos magic show, true chaos show, graffiti on the aether wave. If you're interested, check me out at thresholdsaints.substack.com. Obviously, Spotify and Apple. You can follow the show on Threshold Saints on X and IG, as well as my personal account, Wukong Reborn, WUKONG Reborn. So thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. I had to, show up for the rep the True North as we do. And so, yeah, thank you. I'm really excited.
Could you tell by the name, by the A? Is that what made you, or did I tell you?
I knew from IG, so I can't just totally say that, but the A does give it away. I mean, if you know, right?
I just from talking to people from Canada that have been, podcasting. When I first saw the name, I think when they hit me up, and when I saw them online, I was like, yo, they gotta be Canadian. Is that like the A? Like A? Obviously.
Oh, for sure,
eh? Yeah, for sure. Eh? I love it. But thank you very much for joining us, Jin. And finally, the Esoteric Archives. Guys, please, I guess take turns introducing yourself. Let everybody know what what you would like to plug and where they can find all your amazing work, please.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Nick. Yeah, we're the Esoteric Archives. Little play on words there. We're fairly new to the game here, only 3-4 months in, kind of thing. But
good for you.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, so it's been a fun journey so far. We've had a chance to talk to some cool people and just kind of getting our feet wet here. So you can find us on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, all the places at Esoteric Archives. We'll excited to be here.
Hell yeah. Very nice. And yes, you had some good guests on your show too. I highly suggest to go check them out. I have an interview over there. So, but remote viewing and MKultra. I mean, is that stuff that you guys have been into for a long time and just finally kind of covered on our podcast? Was that something new for you guys? Like, what got you into? What made you decide you wanted to even cover that topic?
So the way our show kind of works is, especially me, Andrew's been into this for a lot longer than me. I've kind of been falling into it. We decide a show topic and heavily research it for a week or two, and then that's when we do it. For me, the remote viewing MKultra, this is my first kind of the last month since we did the show. That's how I've just been kind of getting into it. Like, I obviously knew about it, but that's when I started learning the real dirty details about a lot of it. Yeah, and its involvement in Canada.
Yeah,
I was just gonna ask, and I didn't want to put you guys on the spot because I was like, for all I know, they could be covering it from the United States. But people that I've had on the show, even co-hosts from Canada, had said that they think it might have actually started there before it even came here, or they have their own history plenty of their own MKUltra history in Canada that a lot of people in the United States don't know about. So I was going to ask you, did you actually cover a lot of the Canadian stuff?
Yeah, so like I mean, obviously, like my first kind of introduction to MKUltra stuff was always, you know, you get into the Hollywood stuff and whatever assets that they have and kind of dig into that. But we've sort of found out that Canada seems to be sort of like a testing ground for a lot of this stuff. So it wasn't necessarily that it started here, but
That in Australia.
but it's been, you know, studied here for a long time, since, you know, the early 50s kind of thing. And a lot of the key players from the early days of MKUltra kind of got their start in like Montreal and McGill University and that kind of stuff. So,
and that, yeah, it in the late 40s is when it kind of started here, and a lot of the methods they used are still used today.
yeah.
Used at Guantanamo Bay, places like that. Yeah. And they used a lot of, you know, LSD. And I don't know if you want to talk about Donald Cameron and kind of that's
I remember
the one who brought it to Canada.
Yeah. So this Dr. Ewan Cameron guy, he's the one that sort of started the research project out of McGill, and he was funded by the CIA. So I mean, it was still obviously American involvement there, but he started the, you know, like patterning and like fracturing of the mind, and it was all under the guise of neurological research based on like curing epilepsy and things like that.
Oh, geez.
So, you know, he got hired at McGill, or what ended up being the Allen Memorial Institute, which was basically this like mansion that was donated to McGill University to be kind of the hub of this stuff. And this guy, you know, he's a Scottish academic, and he moved to Canada, was hired to sort of run this department. But before that, he was actually at the Nuremberg trials. He was the guy that determined that that Hess was like fit to stand trial. That was his task, was to sort of do a psychoanalysis on Hess.
And when Hess actually landed, when he landed in England on that flight, and you know, there's rumors that Crowley possibly had something to do with that. That's rumors, but Hess actually, Cameron actually met up with him shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
To determine, and he determined he was faking, I believe, and was fit to stand trial.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I mean, you know, this guy's doing a psychoanalysis on an actual psychopath, so it's, you know, it's sort of framed as this like, and like a lot of this stuff is, right, it's framed under academia. Whereas there's, you know, who's actually pulling the strings behind the scenes kind of thing, right? And there's a lot of crazy stuff with this Cameron guy, and he was later, you know, we'll get into it, but he was sort of like persecuted after for doing these experiments. There's a lot of the test subjects that ended up suing the Canadian government, and a lot of the cases were never really went anywhere. The Supreme Court like closed the files and we're like, we're not pursuing this because the dude's dead, and you know, we're not gonna.
Or your memory wasn't messed with enough, because his whole thing was to completely erase the memory of the patient, and it was unwittingly too. People were going to this institute, think like for depression or for not for regular things, and he was completely erasing their memory. And then after that, he would rebuild it with this looping technique where he would constantly feed them, you know, good phrases or bad phrases to try to shape this new person. It's quite crazy. Especially, side note, I was watching, I don't know if anyone watches Fallout or television at all, but watching the show Fallout, there's a character on there it's the whole thing is to reprogram, like strip away everything and then reprogram with good stuff to create this kind of different person. And that's what he did.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, he was not a very nice guy.
No.
We can say that. And the interesting one of the, you know, because I kind of had a vague understanding of what he had done, just by reading testimonies from some of his patients and whatnot. But some of the other things he was researching at the time too, like in the early 60s, was like he was one of the early kind of like kingpins of the RNA research. and he was researching it as to create a memory pill, is what he was basically saying. So he was using mushroom RNA to try and develop this drug to sort of like for people with memory loss and stuff to kind of reignite their neural pathways and stuff like that, which, you know, I mean, we could get into it later with the current RNA research and the theories behind it, you know, the jibby jabs being, you know, part of a transmitter hive mind type thing. I just thought that was a weird connection because it's such a small part of his work, but it's in there. So
Did he
sorry, go ahead.
did he try to hide it behind like dementia research or something like that?
yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Everything he did was sort of either behind like sleep studies or
Schizophrenia research was a big part of it.
epilepsy was a big one too. And yeah. So it was like, yeah, like I said, it's all usually framed in academia, and it's pretty wild.
And it did kind of, because LSD was a big part of MKUltra, right? And the honeypot operations that went on with it, along with it, and other things. But the LSD kind of did start at McGill.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the first, and he heavily dosed people with LSD and other stuff too, other barbiturates and things like that. But
yeah. I mean, and it goes back further than that too. So like the Allen Memorial Institute, like I said, it was donated to McGill University. It was originally owned by this like aristocrat couple. So Sir Hugh Allen, he was like a shipping tycoon, like one of the early like cross-border trading companies and whatever. So he was a super rich guy and tasked, I think it was John Hopkins actually, to help design this Ravenscrag. It's got if you look up the building, it's got very much like The Shining vibes to it. It's a creepy building.
It's nuts looking. And we had that guy may have been a Freemason. We talked about it. We didn't research into it enough, but the family owned it at first.
Sorry, can I jump in on that point? It's simply because I mean, I went to grad school at McGill, so I kind of know the campus a little bit, and also it is a creepy campus, but it's all backed by Scottish money, Scottish import-export money. All of Montreal really is, and it is interesting also to note that Margaret Trudeau is actually a Sinclair, which would make her a Scottish aristocrat, and she was also part of this later program at McGill and received electroshock and LSD therapy at this institute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Cameron was Cameron doing that electroshock? He was doing like that ECT shit. I don't know if that's the same thing.
Yeah,
that's how he wiped their memory, was that continuously until there was nothing left.
Yeah. I think it was when I read it, I think I remember reading heavily, like which means continuously, heavily used ECT on people.
Yeah, and I mean, even the guy that hired Cameron, what was his name again?
Penfield,
Dr. Wilder Graves Penfield. So this guy was like one of the early Rhodes Scholar recipients, and he kind of started the Montreal Neurological Institute. He was like the original president of that, and he was really known for these homunculus mapping of the brain.
Oh.
So yeah. So he's like, trying to, again, under the guise of like trying to cure things like epilepsy and whatnot. And he ended up hiring Cameron to come sort of take over his research at the university. But yeah, I just thought that was really weird, like the whole, little man thing, right? And being like the homunculus sort of like creating these altars in the brain that, when you get into the fracturing and the honeycomb stuff with the MKUltra.
Well, the honeycomb.
Yeah. So like creating different neurological pathways. So you break it down and then you rebuild it and sort of build it up the way you want to build it. So there's like instances of these patients, like the one dude like tattooed his trigger word on his leg and stuff, and like basically what had happened to him, because every time he tried to come forward and bring this information to light, something fractured his mind and he wasn't able to recall the actual experiments. So I think it was like in a meditative state, he wrote it down and then got all of it tattooed on his leg so that if he was found dead, they'd be able to sort of put the pieces of the puzzle together, sort of like a memento kind of thing. Yeah. It's wild, man. There's like, You know, and again, like no one really talks about it here. Everyone's Canada's so unassuming.
Yeah.
Everyone sort of thinks it's like this polite
Just
kind of.
because you guys say you're sorry all the time doesn't mean fucked up shit goes on over there.
Well, exactly, right? And I mean, if you're
Didn't
saying
you,
sorry,
you guys even see it? I think you guys told me that.
yeah, I probably say sorry more than I should, but yeah,
Yeah.
Sorry for that.
yeah.
Stupid. That was good. Real quick, Judith, not to put you on the spot, but I saw you kind of make a face when I heard him say homunculus. What does that mean to you? Because that's like such a, I feel like
What was the word?
homunculus.
I actually, okay, that my anime side is showing.
Okay, that's fine.
And the only way I know that word is from what's that show? Oh, it's the one with the kid. He's a kid. He's his brother. He puts his brother in armor. Alchemist. Full Metal Alchemist. There you go. That's where I know the word. So I don't really know the definition, but that's what came to mind to me because in that anime there are what you call so
it's Latin for the little man. I am pretty sure, and
it could be like a person mapped on your brain, and I think there's other things behind it.
Well, it was like an alchemical thing too, where they and like I think Parsons played into that too, where they thought that like you didn't necessarily need to, like before they knew how like sperm actually worked. The idea was that there was just a bunch of little men, and that's how you created life. And so the idea was that using different rituals and whatnot, you could create a homunculus without actual intercourse or anything. So it was like the whole like immaculate conception kind of thing, right? So yeah, just weird ties and like yeah. So and the fact that that Buddy was playing into the RNA research and stuff too, it's like what was he trying to seed? What was he trying to embed in these people's minds? You know, like I don't know. Yeah.
Did you mention something earlier about Crowley? I know I don't remember what you said about him, but I didn't know I wanted to bring up that somebody on the show. Like I can't cover it because it was somebody else's research, but somebody who used to be on the show had shown to me that they pretty much kind of connected, I hate to say it, Crowley to Montauk Project. And like even stuff with Jack Parsons and like sometimes I don't know, like maybe people don't think about it. Like either sometimes they have chicks with them or whatever, you know, there was these women that I think Crowley was with and Parsons was with that I've never even heard of it before until this person showed it to me. I was like, okay. And then like they started looking into them and like that shit's just like going back to like Lockheed Martin and crap. And it's just like weird. It's just like, oh, because they're just like this side chick for a few fucking months or a year or two. Like nobody thinks about looking into them. You know, just going by the people that I know that are on that type of topics. I'm just like, how did people miss that? I don't know. It was just very weird to me. I was like, just because they're chicks doesn't mean like they're not involved because they're not the occultists. So they're just looked at as somebody who's like hanging around with them.
Yeah.
Like, how come? I don't know. It's just interesting how they just got looked over and this kind of big connection I've never seen anybody talk about is just blatantly there. And I was like,
yeah,
wow. It was just weird. It was just weird to me. I was like, how the fuck did I?
Who's the handler, right? Like,
Yeah.
you wonder sometimes because you know I know we talked about that when you were on our show too. It's like you get these characters that end up being the figureheads of it, but it's like really you should be looking at who's
Erica Kirks,
who's hanging out with them. You know, like yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, it's interesting too because like Canada, if you look at even the way our media works today, it's all very much like this Project Mockingbird stuff. It's all just repetitive. It's all repeated phrases. All the news outlets are saying the same thing. Everything's censored, and so it's like you know they start this research. When you think of MKUltra, I think you think these individual assets, but it's really just a testing ground to later be applied and scaled up to work on the masses. And you see that here with, I mean, I love Canada as a country. Like it's beautiful and stuff. I do like love being Canadian in a sense, but it's also kind of embarrassing at times because it's just this like, it's under such a spell, and especially the last 5 years. Yeah.
Do you think they're under a spell, or do you think people just don't want to speak on it, or they to not acknowledge it, or they're just too afraid to say anything?
I don't know. What do you think, Mike?
I don't know if it's afraid. I do think that 20 to 30% are just lost.
Yeah.
Like not like a lost cause. Like they are under a spell of some sort. 20 to 30%, I think, are probably like us, I would think, and a little bit more open-minded and nuanced. Like not everything's black and white. Not everything is, this or that. And then I think the middle ones, I don't think it's out of fear that they don't say anything. I maybe it is a spell, and I think a lot of it is just brainwashing. Like, got to go along to get along, right?
Yeah.
Like, be kind.
Well, especially
Was it stay home, stay safe.
Yeah.
Like that whole, that's Canada, right? That's just been drilled into our head, like an MKUltra spell.
Yeah,
you know what I
well-
mean? Like the looping used by Cameron. Like that's just constantly said over and over, and was during COVID and
Yeah.
things. They take a, like in the States too, because I know it's the same, but they take one main thing here and they just drive it in and through the media over and over and over. And if people don't look at alternate sources of media, they just think that's the way it is.
Well, and you can't here because it's censored anyways. So it's like,
Mhm.
if you don't know where to look for this stuff, you're not going to find it.
Yeah. And sorry, speaking to that, what Jen said earlier about Margaret Trudeau, when you go to research MKUltra stuff, that's very hard to find.
Mhm.
That's not something that comes up right away. You have to like dig deep. It's true, but it's hard to find. That's an example of that. You'd think it would be the first thing that would come up given the popularity of her son.
Yeah.
Or lack of popularity. Sorry.
Don't be sorry at all. I just wanted to add something really quick, but you're totally right about the information sources, especially here, but it's also like people's choice. And that's like a hard realization I've had to come to, is that like every boomer over 50 is addicted. Like every single Canadian boomer is addicted to Facebook. Like you cannot take their phone away from them no matter what. And I have tried, and I have parents, and so I know for a fact that this is true. And but it's everyone around me. I live in an area with a lot, people are like 20, 30 years older than me, like pretty much every single person. They are addicted to their phones, like in a way that I didn't even think it was possible for people to actually, I've seen Zoomers less addicted to their phones,
Yeah.
to be honest. And so it is really shocking here because people really will take the world as gospel as they read it online. So that's a huge problem, I think. But I also wanted to respond to your point about the way he programmed people. This is something I've been thinking about, and you guys can respond or anyone can respond if they have a thought on it. But I think most magic is actually 95% of it is reprogramming. Now, could you say in a left-hand pathway, it's reprogramming yourself? Yeah, that's more of a left-hand path framing. You could also say it's 95% reprogramming reality, which could be a mixture of both, right? That could be very Crowleyan in a way, or very Telema, like you're reprogramming reality and reprogramming yourself. So your mind, your consciousness at the same time. Or you could take a really right-hand path approach where you say your will is like the dominant force and then thus creates reality as you will it. So reality is causal to your own mind. So you have like 3 real options, but they all have to do with programming reality, programming your mind, or a mixture of both. So I don't know, just an interesting way to think about magic, I think.
Yeah, well, I think that's why it worked for so long too, is because it's like, that there was such a belief in the system, especially with these older generations, that I mean, if that is how manifesting reality works, is like it did work for them, right? Like you're not going to hate on a system that actually works for you for a bunch of years. And I know that obviously, like, it's not like corruption wasn't happening in Canada all along, but for a long time, like we're a smaller population. The standard of living was actually quite high for a long time. People were making money. It was easy to own a home. And so like you're not gonna shit on what's working. And I think you're seeing that with a lot of the older generations like around the world. But to your point, as the younger people sort of become wise to what's happening and realizing that these systems aren't working for them and whatever, I'm not shocked that Canada is sort of falling apart because we're manifesting this collapse, right? Like and I've, when it comes to a lot of the stuff that's going on now, whether it be the Epstein files, whether it be, the whole COVID thing and all that, it's like I've thought for a long time this is just a coordinated collapse. They know it's going to come down, so they want to manage the demolition.
It's the only thing that makes sense for me, because they're so inept,
Yeah.
and like every decision made is so obviously the wrong one. Not every, but most.
Yeah.
They're either completely incapable of leading a country, which is wrong, or they're in on the collapse.
And even
it's one or the other.
Watch our like parliamentary system, like when they're in parliament, and the, you know, left versus right stuff, which is so played up so hard here. It's like a schoolyard argument. Like, you got the liberals over here saying one thing, and then Pierre Poilievre comes in and has to like own the liberals, and like it's so like rudimentary. It's really weird to watch, because it seems very scripted to me. And
Oh yeah. It makes American politics look extremely sophisticated.
yeah,
And I'm saying that tongue in cheek, but I'm not I'm not kidding at all.
No,
It really makes us look incredibly parochial.
yes.
And the thing is, Canada has tons of we skew very high median IQ, and we also have a lot of scientists. We have CERN here. We have like all this sports medicine research. We have all this what's it called, like mining and all that shit that I don't know about. But we have a lot of people who are like hard scientists, like really interested in like the world and like the environment. And Canada is obviously really huge. So it's shocking how easy it is to brainwash people, and not just like in an underground lab at McGill, but just through mass media itself.
Well, and I think we're so closely tied to the US, and there is so much kind of upheaval happening, that I think a lot of Canadians look at that and they're like, well, we don't want to bring that energy here, right? Like, we don't want to mimic what they're doing, because look at, people are getting shot in the streets and blah, blah, blah. And obviously, when you get past the left versus right thing, you see what's actually going on, but a lot of people haven't made it there yet. And even, with the Canadian Patriot, the freedom fighter movement that's here, they just can't seem to get past that line in the sand where it's like, no, we just need a conservative government, man. That's what we need. And then it'll be better. Like, I can't for the life of me understand why we haven't moved past that narrative yet. Especially seeing, the US and what's going on. It's just, it's wild to me. It seems like and that's, the MKUltra thing where there's like trigger words that just sort of shut down the brainwaves. I really think that's happening.
He's left. Yeah, sorry, Nick. But Pierre Poilievre, he's left of Donald Trump. So it's a weird situation to be in. I apologize, Nick. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're good. You're good. I think you guys had mentioned something before, that like something kind of being like reset over and over again, or maybe something repetitive or phrases. I had noticed that after and this kind of goes into MKUltra, because I was thinking of how this guy Donald was good with like wiping out the memory, and then you have Jocelyn West that was good with implanting memories that were false. So I just do wonder, like, things that I've seen, like when you take COVID, you take BLM, and I even think the insurrection, you might have gotten "Let's Go Brandon" after that, or something like that. There was a phrase after that constantly got repeated. But there was like certain things that was like either like on the news or thrown on TV that seemed to kind of traumatize a little bit or get the public going. You had George Floyd, you had people scared of COVID. So a lot of people were triggered or freaked out by January 6th. And then all of a sudden this phrase that just gets fucking repeated over and over and over again afterwards. And it's just, to me, it was just like, is that what you're saying? Like, you're being traumatized, and now they have maybe they have your attention, or some parts like kind of open, and now we're just going to repeat this fucking slogan to program you.
Yeah,
100%. I think the things they learned from Dr. Cameron, MKUltra kind of took them to different levels, maybe so they were less intrusive, to do it in ways like through media, as opposed to wiping out someone's memory. And then, we'll traumatize them through all through the fear campaign, right? Exactly.
I think you can do that with fear, sure.
For sure you can. Yeah. And I think they learned that through MKUltra. Like, there was 136 different sub projects in MKUltra.
Holy fuck.
And none of them really knew what the other one was doing, right? And they're so varied too. That's in your country, right? That's in the States, not in Canada. There's 136 anyway. Yeah, but yeah, I think that's for sure what happened.
Yeah.
Myself,
And I
think
think
that was
there's
the
been
spell.
points when the media kind of stopped work. You look at like the trucker convoy that happened in 2022, right? Like it was working. It was starting to, people were starting to be like, hey, actually, you know what? Maybe our government does suck. Maybe, you know, they're saying there's Nazi flags flying at this protest. They're saying it's violent. They're saying businesses are getting like destroyed. And then you have people on the ground that are like, nah, that's not actually happening. People live streaming, showing you that they're just like chilling in hot tubs and like feeding the homeless.
Playing
And like
street hockey.
And yeah, so it's like that's the spell kind of did stop working. And then what did they do? They fucking stomp everyone with horses and you know, and start freezing bank accounts and things like that. And they just had to like instill that fear again.
Yeah,
And it ended.
If I could add, sorry, one more thing to that, another spell they did recently was the last election. Leading up to it, Polyev was ahead in every poll by a lot. And I think it was about a month before they brought up, oh, Donald Trump tariffs, Donald Trump bad. And immediately all the boomers that Jen mentioned earlier, immediately, even if they were conservative, they were now going to vote liberal. And it was that elbows up, that stupid campaign that was everywhere in Canada.
Yeah.
That's all you just saw everywhere. And it did brainwash people. You and I saw multiple people that we knew would vote conservative. Not that that matters anyway, because I personally don't think voting matters, but that's my own personal belief.
No, but the narrative itself.
And they switched.
Yeah.
As soon as that elbows up, it was like a spell hit them. And yeah, anyway.
And it's been repeated since. It's still like it's you know, there's talk of a spring election. Everyone thinks there's going to be a spring election, and they're just going to play the same card, right?
Yeah, and Mr. Burns will get elected again.
Yeah, that really bummed me out because Mike Myers was really behind all that, and I love Wayne's World, man. That really.
Oh, that's right. Mike Myers was the one.
All the Canadian celebrities, they kind of ruined themselves. To be honest, I'm being like, as a millennial, I'm just saying, like, who's always proud to be Canadian, who's always like, you know, my mom's French Canadian, like been here since the 1600s. Like I'm proud of being Canadian. Like I'm mixed, but yeah. And so, but yeah, all the Canadian celebrities basically just ruined themselves publicly by supporting especially the Liberals. I mean, of course, it's cringe and embarrassing to support the Conservatives, especially in Canada, like no question about it, because obviously for many reasons. But the Liberals, like as the party that has done so much destruction, harm, made the country unrecognizable. Like we were fine in multiculturalism when I was a kid. Nobody really had a problem. You could live in Vancouver or Toronto, and it was like, honestly, it was, I used to joke, mixed race paradise. Like everybody was half Asian, no problem at all, and everybody got along for the most part. And we would make jokes at each other. Like Teresa and I discussed this many times. Like, you know, it was like having one immigrant parent or two immigrant parents. Was not really a big deal. But they completely changed the like total landscape demography from something that was like functional to something that has become non-functional. So
yeah, it just continues to fracture too, right? Look at the whole Alberta separatist thing that's happening right now. Like it's a pretty cringy sort of movement, and not that the sentiment isn't there. And you know, I can kind of get behind, equalization payments, blah blah blah. I get it. I get that part of it, but the idea that it's just sowing more division, and that seems to be the key with all of it.
Well, there's an interesting idea that I have, I guess, from my time on Canadian parapolitical Twitter, on whatever little people I know from it, is that my theory has always been it's impossible because of the way the numbered treaties are structured, particularly because Alberta has 3 major treaties running through it, 6, 4, and 10 or 8, I can't remember. But because of that, it's actually impossible, because those are the underlying documents to Confederation. So if you actually allowed Alberta to leave, you would say Confederation actually doesn't exist. So there would be no Dominion of Canada.
Yeah, well, even on the trade side of things, right? That's the whole thing where Alberta's landlocked, and they're like, well, no, we'll just, you know, we still have the right to transport goods through provinces, and they're referencing like a UN like law. So it's like, So let me just get this straight. You don't want to be part of this country. You want to separate, but now we're going to do like the whole one world government thing. You're going to reference an organization that's basically the opposite of what you're trying to achieve. Like it makes no sense, right? It's just a lot of grasping at straws. And again, I get the sentiment, I get the anger behind it, but it's just, yeah, it's the what did Trudeau during all the COVID nonsense was calling the fringe minority, right? And that seems to just be another, that key phrase that they use, and they're just now that's the fringe minority is these Alberta separatists. And if you ask them, they're the majority. They think that it hasn't made sense to me. It didn't work when Quebec tried to do it. It's not going to work when Alberta tries to do it. It's just another distraction.
And if voting is what's going to decide it, it's not going to work anyway.
Exactly.
Because whatever they want to happen is what will happen.
Yeah. If anything, it pushes it closer to that whole 51st state thing. So
talking about money laundering, I think that's what the Alberta separatism is about. A separatist movement really is about. I think it's about funneling PAC money into these like a smaller, like mini Canadian parties, like these like kind of like Alberta nationalist parties that don't really exist, and just like dividing people's attention. I think that's what a lot of it is, because I think it is a legal impossibility. And like, yeah, maybe in 30 years, none of the people who are interested in Alberta separatism are even going to be alive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So definitely attention sink, if anything.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know how to necessarily break the spell, especially when there is the level of censorship that we have here. But again, I think like, making people realize that what is actually at play here and what's behind it. Like McGill University is a very prestigious university, right? In Canada, that's like where you go.
I would say it's probably our Harvard.
Yeah.
Or Princeton. It's definitely would be considered an Ivy League school if there was that here.
Yeah. So, I mean, if anything, it's like if we can expose what they've been involved in the past and stuff, that might be a way to clue people in.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's not going to be done through like alternative media here the way it is in the States. That's for sure.
No. And the only thing I would add is because this started with Nick talking about BLM and all that stuff possibly being a spell or being a spell. And I think all these things, my personal opinion is I think all these things are done to keep us constantly divided, because all of us have way more in common with the person you think you don't have anything in common with.
So true. That is so true.
Yeah. You have way more common with them than you do with any of the people making these decisions, you know what I mean, screwing around with their lives. So I think the faster people realize that, maybe the spell will break.
A lot of us want the same shit. We just have different ideas of how to do it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, Canada again. The MKultra. Sorry, I took us all off on that.
Oh, it's all good.
No, I mean it's all tied together, right? So I mean, if you want to get into because there's interesting stuff even before you and Cameron,
sure.
Before all that stuff. So the Ravenscrag, the building that ended up being donated, like I said, it was owned by that Sir Hugh Andrew Montague Allen. What a mouthful that name is, but like his wife, Lady Margaret Allen, was the granddaughter of the head of the Bank of Montreal. So you have, ties in with that. He's obviously knighted, so there's ties in with the royal family. But so they were survivors of the sinking of the RMS Lusitania, which like the story of it was basically a whatever ship that was torpedoed by a German naval ship and sunk, and a bunch of people died. And it was kind of used to help America get into World War I. It was kind of what changed the sentiment on it. So they're like, and this is like not long after the Titanic stuff too, right? So it's like it's just the same playbook.
Gulch was a theme.
Yeah, and then even to where like so the boat sank and there wasn't a lot recovered from it, but what was recovered from it was this Cartier tiara that Lady Allen had on. which again, like the whole, what is it, like the gem of the sea from Titanic, right? Like it all follows the same storyline. It's super weird.
The passport from the World Trade Center.
Yeah, yeah. There's always something recovered, right? And if you look up this tiara, it's the Greek key is the pattern on it, and the whole like meaning behind the Greek key, if I'm not mistaken, is like subliminal patterning. Like it is like it's a continuous pattern, but it follows, like it's not a straight line. It follows, it goes back, and
It's a loop.
Yeah, it's this weird,
which is what he did.
Yeah.
He's looping.
So I mean, there's just so many synchronicities behind it where one has to kind of wonder, like, again, like were these people even real? Were they like, you know what I mean? Like it's the story all leads up to them donating this building that ends up being used for depatterning. Like I don't know. There's to me, there's something strange there. I haven't that's my, you know, like that's my schizo comment for the day, I guess. But but yeah, I just, yeah, it all stems from this like Scottish Freemasonry royal family, banker family, and just one player after the other just keeps building on this pattern of this MKultra research and getting it to where it is today. So I just, yeah, I found that kind of strange. But I mean, yeah, if and again, like this guy was at Nuremberg, so yeah. There's some really interesting stories. This one woman, I had it pulled up here, Lana Ponting. She was one of the patients that like went after the government for this, which again, like no one really got their just desserts from going after any of this. But like if you look up her story, it's like horrific what they were doing to her. She was someone that had experienced childhood trauma and very like verbally and physically abusive parents, but they basically like interviewed her and asked all of these questions relating to like what her parents used to say to her to break her down and whatever, and then they'd like dose her up and then just repeat those lines again and again and again and again, and just to fracture her mind. And that's basically what they did with all of the patients. Yeah. And she says, like, I was an ordinary teenager until these experiments, which, I mean, you know, anyone who's experienced trauma to that level, I don't know how normal you can be, but yeah, it follows the same framework, you know, the US MKultra stories where they get runaways, they get, you know, like we're pulling people out of psychiatric hospitals and experimenting because they're crazy anyways, right? So who's going to listen to their story after? And it's just, I don't know, the level of abuse that just gets overlooked is pretty gross. Yeah.
I was just one thing I wanted to add is you mentioned because we've said a few times how he was at the Nuremberg trials, Donald Cameron. Mm-hmm. While he was there, he also met Henry A. Murray, and that's the guy who did the Harvard experiments, which is where Ted Kaczynski went through. Because Ted Kaczynski downplays it, says that it didn't affect him at all. And when you read his letters, it's seems to me like he didn't want it to be known that he got maybe messed with a little bit, but they did practice something similar through those experiments. But it wasn't like electroshock. It was Ted Kaczynski had to write down all his thoughts and feelings and present it to this guy, and he would read them, and then they would basically ridicule him and tear him down. And then, yeah. And I only mentioned the Ted Kaczynski thing because I wanted to know anyone's thoughts, just a little sidebar here on him actually making the Epstein files too. I don't know if you guys, like 2 or 3 of the people he tried to bomb are on the Epstein files. The Unabomber. Yeah. I don't know if I just saw that today. Yeah.
I think the Epstein stuff's an ARG. This is just me speaking, just totally for myself. I think that the whole drop, I think, is a ARG. I think it's like a QAnon thing. I think it's to take people through a hermeneutic sort of like tunnels of Set, if you want to call it that, and so they get lost. I think there's like, of course, there's true things in it.
I was like
But-
Cicada 3301. That'd be too.
Say that again, Nick.
Cicada 3301. That was like, isn't that an ARG?
Oh yes, it is.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
saying something like that. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, exactly. It's like a mixed reality game. It kind of bleeds through. So you like, it can just be like your algorithm on Twitter. And then it's things you go and Google. And then it's like things you start to think about, start to like parse through different people's biographies you start to read. All of that becomes its own like kind of quote unquote game, like a video game that someone's already mapped out.
Shit.
Well, I was listening to a podcast the other day from Realize Radio.
Shivers, sorry.
Yeah, no.
It's like Dungeons and Dragons or some shit.
I mean, it's all related, right? Because this is what Tracy Twyman was talking about. And there was a Disney ARG in 2013 that mapped out COVID, exactly what happened. It said every single thing, like every single thing that happened. This Disney ARG called The Optimist. Everybody should Google it right now. Legit, it's like mind blowing. And it mapped out everything that happened, COVID, 2020, the sort of instability, destabilization, demoralization campaign. And it was a game that people actually signed up and paid money to play. And so they would get little roles, is what would happen. They would be assigned secretly roles, like observer or whatever, insight roles. And like they would go on and to live their actual normal lives, or they would go to do totally different lives. And that would be part of the game. Is that they would sort of like reconstitute. So they were paying to play this like live action RPG, like Vampire the Masquerade. Like if you're someone from the 90s, you might have remembered people going to do that. That's exactly what it's based off. Like Nick said, Dungeons and Dragons, but in real life. And so your opponents are, very interestingly enough, people called NPCs, non-playable characters, the normies, because they don't know they're in the game. That's what makes them NPCs. They don't actually know. So this is actually a real thing. And I think that the Epstein thing is one drop in the bucket. And I think there are actually probably hundreds, if not thousands of ARGs being played through social media right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the podcast I was listening to the other day, like that's what she was talking about, was that like Epstein's not real, and not in the sense that like this stuff isn't happening behind the scenes, that these, like human trafficking doesn't exist, but that these characters that they use as the figureheads for it aren't actually real entities. They might be legal entities where they can, still have bank accounts and they can still operate businesses and whatever, but they're not an actual physical being. And she brought up a bunch of pictures of Epstein as an example, right? Like ones where like his legs are missing, and you referenced that one the other day where he's like when he's teaching math or whatever the hell he taught, and
it says Epstein. He spelled his name wrong.
Spelled his own name wrong on the, so it's like
it looks so fake.
Yeah. Like the AI has been around for a long time. We're just being allowed to play around with it now. So there probably is. Yeah, it is a video game. It is just a big distraction. Look over here, not over here, and then everyone's able to like place blame on something, and then we can just move on from that. And because he's dead, right? So like it's done. Like I was talking to a friend about it, and he's like, well, I think maybe Wexner took over. I'm like, I think there's 1,000 Wexners out there, man. Like it's not like it doesn't just change hands. It's not like a crime family, like the Don dies and then hands the business over to his son. Kind of that's not how this works. It's a giant network of powerful people that are operating under this legal entity and creating a big, again, like the demoralization campaign thing. That's a big part of it too. It's pretty demoralizing to realize that you've been paying taxes all this time to these types of people, and what are you going to do about it? I get paid next week. The taxes are still going to come off my check. Like, what the hell am I going to do about it? It's pretty sick and sophisticated. That's the weird part too. It is how sophisticated it is. I don't
Well,
fully
they
understand.
use game theory, right? Like
Yeah.
even though we're saying like ARG, but they use game theory on actual reality itself. It's very left-hand path chaos magic. They actually create these legal entities, exactly what you said. Michael Aquino he was a big fan of doing this. That's what the crystal tablets are all about. Like Nick always has his famous line, "It's not all dicks and demons." That's exactly what it's right. If people went and read those instead of saying like, "Oh, it's satanic, it must be evil." No, actually, you could actually see one of the great Kabbalists of the 20th century talking about Lurianic Kabbalah applied to legal structures and frameworks. I'm a Kabbalah nerd, so that's just kind of appealing to me, sort of. But
Oh,
I'm just saying that yeah, he's applying like Kabbalah to legal structures and frameworks for an NGO, for a nonprofit organization. So it's very clear that you have to say corporations are klipothic. Corporations are the tunnels of Set, as Kenneth Grant would call them. That shouldn't even be crazy for people. Those are the tunnels that we are supposed to. That's Plato's cave. That's the allegory. Is these legal structures that are superstructures that exist above us that we cannot even access. Even if you grow up with money or have money, you might not even be tied into the networks that support the greater structure. So that's what is very destabilizing, I think, for people's like psyche, is that even if you have money, even if you've done the right things, even if you're kind of a baddie, okay, let's just be honest, like maybe you haven't done all the right things, but you want to like reconstitute yourself, rectify yourself, try and do better. You kind of realize it's all bullshit because these people there's a totally separate system of rules. And it's not about Epstein even going to jail or getting convicted at all. And it's because it's exactly what you said. This is just, there might be an Epstein and there might not be an Epstein. And it doesn't even matter
Mhm.
because it's just a show. It's a total game. It's a veil.
Yeah.
And what is behind it? It's a bunch of right-wing grifters on Twitter who who campaign for their audience to get money. And then we'll say, "Oh, we're going to drop this Epstein lore. We're going to drop this thing. What if it's this thing? Oh, they're eating kids." But then they're not even like really reading or parsing the files themselves. They're just like going for like what they know is going to get engagement. They get paid for engagement. So it kind of it's very cyclical. It's very much like everybody is compiling bullshit on top of bullshit.
Well, and even the searchability of it, right? Like they gamified it by you can just go to this website and search a name and see how many times.
Oh, yeah, that
Right.
sucks. I don't like the way you're gonna do it.
Yeah, I saw that like for universities in the States, they had like a top 30 like they do for college football of
Jesus.
universities named how many times in the Epstein files. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
I guess
you know what weirded me out? Not weirded me out. Well, I don't know. I guess a little bit. I'll be honest. I was really surprised he was in there. I mean, he didn't go to his island or anything, but he worked on MIT shit with him. Rupert Sheldrake. I was like, oh, say it ain't so. Guy from the telepathy tapes.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
he's done a lot of like pretty impressive research on weird science, but I was like, what were you doing working with Epstein on MIT?
Yeah. Well, I think, a lot of people are just opportunists too, right? Like,
Yeah, I know.
yeah, like, well, again, according to everything, this guy had a private plane, and like private planes, like in order to pay for a private plane, you have to like rent it out when you're not using it, kind of thing. So it's like, it just creates this web where it's like, yeah, who is actually just, involved literally so that they could get like charter a jet to their next meeting, or who was involved because they were trying to get an investment from someone, or who was involved because they were actually on like, diddling kids. Like there's so many, like, there's so many lines to get you there that it's just going to create, I mean, what do they say? Like, it's like 3 million files that they dropped, or 30 million files. Like, how can you possibly go through that?
how did he have time to do all that stuff?
Well, yeah,
That's still
the one
it's like
word
Elon Musk level. How do you have time to do all that?
Yeah, yeah. And you have, I mean, yeah, it's I really see it as like, getting back to the MKUltra thing. It's like everything kind of leading up to this was sort of like a beta test for all of this, and now it's like, all right, let's launch the project and see if this all worked. And I mean, unfortunately, yeah, it did. That's what it seems like.
That it did. I think it is, because I think it's still in motion. If you look about, like Jen mentioned earlier, the boomers, you can't get them off social media. People don't listen to the news anymore. So what do? Inundate the social media. People are either afraid to listen. People are afraid to move. You just mentioned it. You have so many connections to Epstein, but at this point, it's guilty by association, even if you're not associated with that island.
Yeah.
And then now now let's say you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to make it in the world. Now you're going to question who to talk to, when to talk to, where to go, what to use. It's like putting us, basically the world, in a form of paranoia, which is what MKultra does.
Yeah.
And then we don't remember how it was prior to all this being initiated.
Yeah.
Right before COVID.
And it's information overload too, right? Like, try and recall all of this stuff. It's a real-time fracturing of the mind, because you're bouncing between this email, this guy, like all these, what date was that again? Where did that happen again? And like, I mean, to where I don't even, I haven't really looked at the emails and stuff, because it's like, what's the point? Like, we knew this stuff was happening. If anything, like, okay, great, it is sort of waking up some people, I guess, to the idea of this stuff going on. But yeah, without a level of discernment or the actual ability to determine what's what and who's who, like, it just becomes this information overload. And yeah, who's going to actually do anything about it? So
I loved what Judith said about it. I think that that's a great way to frame it. It's like, I was thinking of actually Nick, and he hasn't used this analogy in a long time. This is probably like 2 years old, but I'm stealing it from you directly, Nick. You would say that the devil card on the tarot, it's like the two people chained, but they're not chained by their hands. They're chained by their neck. That means that they can unchain themselves if they so choose, right?
Oh yeah, they're loose on some of them too. It's like, just take them
That's
off.
right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's your metaphor. And so they can choose, like, people can choose to what they want to believe. But most people like the chains.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, it's and yeah, people are comfortable in their jobs. They still want to succeed. They still got mortgages. They still got families to feed and stuff. So, like, at the end of the day, who's got the time? Really, they've built a system around us that you're lucky if you get a free hour or two in the day to actually do something for yourself, let alone save the world. Like,
well, actually, people have at a great number, and it actually happened a lot during COVID. A lot of people did decide to make the change, but they went after them. And the best example of that are homesteaders.
mm-hmm.
There was a large influx of homesteaders, but once that large influx went, they went after them as well. At least here in the US, they started to go after them as well.
Oh, they do it here too. You can, like, all drugs are like legal in Vancouver, but try and get raw milk. Like,
Yeah.
you can't.
Yeah. You'll be arrested in a day.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say that, because that's one of the things I try to find and I try to get, and it's insane. And there was a loophole that people found, and they went after and he was Amish. They went after that person who was doing that. So once you find that loophole, they are very quick to close it up, and they close it up quietly and quickly.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then label them as that, like I said, the fringe minority, right? Like, you're just a nut. Like, you're gonna just go drink straight milk, you crazy person? Like, you go buy it from the store where it's pasteurized, and we've done what we need to do to it. We're not going to tell you what we did to it, but it's healthier for you, and people just eat it up because convenience, because whatever, right? And you don't want to be associated with that fringe minority, and that unfortunately happens a lot up here.
It's why our cheese is awful too.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, because it has to be pasteurized, right? The best cheese in the world,
Yeah.
I think, is from raw milk, right? Italian, French, Spanish. Nothing against American cheese, but anyway, sorry.
I agree.
Yeah, man. It's a sad state of things up here, unfortunately. So, I mean, I really hope that it does change, and it's just, but again, it's just too comfortable for most people, because again, you talk about inflation and you talk about this stuff, but people here, for the most part, people I work with, they still drive nice cars and they still have a nice home and they're still just going along to get along because that's what you do. And yeah, stuff might be corrupt. Yeah, maybe they've been experimenting on us for years and years and years, but like, I don't know, eh? You know,
Hey.
I think people don't want it. People don't want to be uncomfortable, right? So, and they don't want to have to go through that. Same reason people decided to do certain things, and when COVID went on, was because they didn't want to have to look at not maybe having a job or whatever. Same kind of ideas, right?
Yeah.
So,
oh, sorry, Nick.
no, you can go, Jen. Go.
Sorry about that. I
You're
was
good.
just going to say that there's, if your average house price for Vancouver is $3 million, like you have a pretty big incentive to like maintain the status quo. And I'm not saying that, I mean, I do real estate. So like, I'm not saying that as like, I want prices to crash or anything like that. I don't. I personally invested in it, but I want to say that it's like, if that is like, if you're one of those people and you sort of lucked into becoming like a multimillionaire just through real estate, just through your like personal like house purchase alone, you have to kind of consider like Vancouver's kind of gone to shit. Like, yeah, the lower, like, downtown east side has always been bad. It was bad when I was a kid. It's never been good, but it has exponentially become 100 times worse ever in the world. And then you see people who are like the grand architects of it, like Gabor Mate. I know this isn't like one of the things he likes to claim that he is infamous for, but he is for people from Vancouver. He actually invented the downtown east side safe injection site. That was his baby. So it is interesting that he gets to go and talk about like trauma and like how to like alleviate your pain, lift off the chains of the, of all these bad people. And, but that's kind of what I think liberalism is dying. I think if I'm being really honest, I think we're seeing kind of the death throes of liberalism and like its failures. I'm not saying it's a total failure. We're moving into like fascism or anything. I don't black pill personally. But I just think that we're seeing like a failure of a lot of systems, multiple happening at the same time. And people will eventually have to come to some kind of reconciliation of like what to do and how to navigate that and what to reify. Like, is that like the quintessence of like human dignity, is to have like the downtown east side like with all like dead natives there? Like, I don't personally think that is like, liberals want to talk about upholding the treaty. Well, is that upholding the treaty? I would say that is actually the opposite. So I think that will have to reconcile a lot of contradictions in the next 3 years or 4 years.
Yeah. But it's again, then they do this thing where they reframe and the narrative again, where you talk about dignity. Well, like the whole MAID thing, like assisted suicide in Canada right now is like, that's being framed as taking like a dignified way to go. Like if you're terminally ill, let's just, convince them to kill themselves. But now it's gone as far as, oh, you're depressed. Oh, you are poor. Like you can just sign up and end it all. And that's, taking your dignity back. But it's like, yeah, but at the end of the day, it's just convincing people to end their own life. Like
veterans calling to ask for help with medical bills and that sort of thing, and they're being offered MAID by the government instead of the government offering to help them with their issue.
Yeah,
and a lot of times it is mental issues.
Yeah.
It's one of the leading causes of death in Canada.
1 in every 20 deaths in Canada is
the government.
What
assisted suicide? Yeah.
This actually supports Elon's Musk saying that they're trying to dwindle the population, because why would you offer that to someone who's asking to pay their medical bills, asking for help for that?
Yeah.
The problem is that we overloaded the medical system here like so badly, and we sort of changed the nature of care where it becomes about extending people who are like 80. I'm not saying that we should like do anything bad to people who are seniors. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that we have overemphasized sort of like extended life care when we should have actually been doing like good public health. And I'm not talking about COVID stuff. I'm talking about like All the stupid shit that Health Canada spends money on is basically the opposite of like good health and like building healthy foundations for people. And so everything that they kind of promote and then subsequently spend money on are these kinds of programs that people then use as a crutch. Like a lot of it's funny when Americans get so upset about abortion, not because I agree with it. I actually don't agree with it personally, but we have had it since the 70s, like full-term abortion in Canada.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
like there are debates that we are so far ahead of some of the kinds of thinking and what is progressive healthcare. So all of our resources then go to support these structures that people then to be utilized and consider part of their quote unquote rights. So that's a big part of why healthcare is like bad here, is because we spend way too much money, or all of our money, on actually bad policy.
Mhm.
That is eugenic. That is progressive, and progressives is eugenic. That's also what's interesting.
And if I could add also on top of that, the amount of bureaucratic money in hospitals now is obscene compared to what it was 15, 20 years ago. There's most of the salary are paid to people who aren't doctors or doing anything in the hospital, right? It's paid to other people and human resources kind of people, and they didn't have that sort of fee to pay 15 or 20 years ago, and I think it's more money laundering and things like that too.
Yeah. Well, and they become a main employer, back to the Alberta thing, like the number one employer in Alberta is Alberta Health Services. That's not, everyone thinks it's oil country, and it is, but yeah, the most people, the vast number of people that have a government job or whatever, it's working for the health industry there. So there's
That's a big problem in
yeah,
Canada in general.
yeah, they just incentivize bootlicking. You can,
Yeah, the
Yeah, we have
bureaucracy
such a
problem. The bureaucracy problem, I was just going to say, extends to all of Canada. That is a problem in this entire country, and every level everything's bloated.
We have a huge deep state, if you want to use that language, and it's true though. And all of those people tend to then vote liberal, no matter how like based and red pilled Alberta pretends to be. Anyone who works for the government, provincial or federal, generally votes liberal. And we have a very small voting population, people who actually go out and vote. So those people then actually weigh the vote hugely. Like just having the federal workers go out and vote actually determines the outcome of elections pretty much.
Yeah. And again, it's just this framework that's built around especially crown countries, because Australia, I know, is the same way. The UK is going down the same path. They're more focused on like the unruly immigration side of things, but it's how can we sow division? How can we control the masses and make them desperate? How can we and it's, at the end of the day, they just know where the narrative's going to go based on how they're treating their citizens, and then they can take the narrative there and reestablish it in a way that seems like it's changing, but it's not. It's just reframed. The same way that people say, oh, the Nazi Party never ended, right? They just rebranded. It's the same thing. Yeah. It's a
silent pause.
Yeah.
Awkward pause. I think I was going to mention one thing that Jen said too about this loss of faith. It's all planned, and it goes to the MKultra stuff as well, because someday, like he said, people are going to have to square the circle with their political, like they're going to realize, I think, at some point, right? And that's hard to do. Like I went through that, and it's hard when you, everything that you believe in, you realize, like I went to university and I realize now that most of what I learned is either not true or I learned part truths. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people are going to have to go through that. And when that happens, that's when I think the world government, one world government kind of thing, will swoop on in and say, trust us, right? Because people are like the MKultra, you break them down and then they swoop in and come in with taglines and Build Back Better is not going to work, I don't think, anymore, but they'll come up with another one that's similar, and they'll just keep playing it for everyone. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, down in the States, what did they change? It just changed to the big beautiful bill. Like they didn't even change the
That was so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chaos magic. They're all chaos magicians. They really are. I mean, Peter Carroll wrote about this. He talked about how after Project Montauk, a bunch of the kids, like whether this is true or not, or just some hyperstitional bullshit, he said like a bunch of them became chaos magicians, like the kind of rejects of these programs, and they became like chaos magicians in the wild, so to speak. And their whole thing was to like blow the hyperspace kingdom open. That's basically, that's not an exact quote, but it's pretty close. So I honestly think that I have high hopes for humanity, because I actually think that in many ways COVID was itself an ARG. And I think it actually pushed us through a threshold. I think it pushed many people through a threshold of psychic experiences and like non-dual reality. And I think people actually started to realize like, yeah, we are psychic as fuck. But unfortunately, what happened was they got caught in like all these little silos that they, quote unquote, they put us into, that we choose of our own free will and volition, partly of ignorance, I think is a lot of it. So we choose these like silos, politics, things to believe in, all of that, instead of like look at our like mass consciousness, the power that we have being online all together at one time, transcending time and space. I think that's really powerful, and I think that's really psychic. And I think actually we probably could affect reality, if you want my real opinion, as like as a retired chaos magician. So I think we can, and so I think we have to like say so we have to speak the truth, but not in the truther Luciferian way, but like the actual truth, as much as possible. And sometimes you don't know what the truth is, and sometimes that's okay to say too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Everyone's trying to. There's a lot of people just trying to find a way to. It's like the confirmation bias thing, right? Everyone's trying to take what information is coming in, and rather than look at it as a whole, like try and find a way to confirm their belief system or their political view or whatever. And it's really goes a lot deeper than that. So I think maybe we're in the late stages of that. And, I'm sure like Jin, you can attest to this. Like Canada's always 6 months to a year behind the US, I find, with even just with the way things trend, where we're always like a little bit behind. So it is maybe just like, it's going to take another year or two for people to get to that point before we start seeing that change. And the hope is, I guess, just that they're not able to pull more magic out of their sleeve in the meantime. That just it's that 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of thing, right?
Well, I don't want Nick to kill me, but I do want to say I have some pretty crazy parapolitical beliefs about Canada. So I actually think that the idea of Greenland being taken is actually metaphysically interesting. Maybe not real, but I think it's metaphysically interesting. And I think that it serves like a greater purpose to like reunite. Like, so all Canadians know this saying, like the Turtle Island, right? Like we've heard it a million times. You've heard every native person on CBC say it. It's like it's a reinforced idea, you could say, part of the ARG. What if I told you that this is actually like a Indian idea, but not a feather Indian, a Daw Indian idea? It's called the Brahmaloka. We exist on the back of a giant turtle. That's actually the real story. So if you look at a turtle, it actually fits Kabbalah really well. I like Kabbalah personally, but you could also say it fits I Ching. There are certain nodes and certain connection points and certain numbers that appear. And so you could say that if North America is indeed the turtle's island or the turtle's back, the important thing would be to connect the nodes. So actually, I think that you can make a metaphysical argument that we should actually be unified as a continent. So I think if I'm just, it's all speculative. Okay. This is all speculative. I'm just kind of going off the deep end. So that's all it is. But I'm just saying if he did, there is, Jason Giorgiani talks a lot about this too. I mean, he says very similar things. I don't agree with a lot of what he says, but he talks about like a kind of secret deep state that is run by the Collins elite, like the people who are like the Peter Thiel people who are actually tradcaths. and also evangelical Christians. They're in kind of an alliance, and there's another part of the deep state that kind of have the, so that's the dicks and demons part, the Peter Thiel part. And then there's another faction who are like the UFO, OTO, Typhonian guys who actually believe that the sort of like things that people say they experience are aliens. I personally take the camp that everything that we experience is part of our consciousness. So I think it's more about us rather than some like foreign entity or like space creature or like demonic Chituthalu god. That's personally me though. So I think that actually metaphysically it makes sense. I think that, you know, if we want to say there are 7 luminaries in the sky, then there should be 7, you know, the 7 continents should be unified. And I think that, you know, maybe we have so much more in common with the Americans than the Europeans. So I think, you know, whatever the liberals say, I kind of just want to go against. So if they're saying that we should align with the EU and align with Ukraine, like I actually want to go against that. I actually think that we should take part in our own destiny, our own manifest destiny. And, you know, the one thing about Canadian liberalism, and I'll say this before I shut up, is that Louis Riel was right about a lot of stuff. Canadians don't really understand like his greater project, but he really did believe that Canada was eventually meant to become like a French like a multicultural French republic based in the prairies that eventually joined the US. That was the whole part, like the whole political manifesto of really the Batoche Rebellion. So a lot of people, a lot of French Canadians actually believe in that. And a lot of people from the prairies actually still retain kind of that. I don't want to say nostalgia, but they kind of retain like the spirit of that being alive. And I think that it's no coincidence that Louis Riel has made a sort of resurgence as a popular sort of cultural hero. And no matter how much they kind of like whitewash and liberalize him, I think he will always remain like who he was. And he thought of himself as like a saint or a messiah. So I just think an interesting character, and like he talked about the Greenland stuff. I mean, the Cree language goes all the way from Western BC to to Hudson's Bay. So, you know, we're talking, and that's Rupert's land. That's Hudson Bay territory. Louis Riel was part of the Métis people, they who rule themselves. I think that there is a story there, and I think that there could be like something interesting metaphysically. Anyways, I'm sorry. I have some weird Canadian ideas. I apologize.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. That's not something I've really looked into a whole lot. So
No, me neither. But that is very interesting and big concept to think about. That is for sure.
yeah, well, it just makes me think that they always play the long game too, right? So it's like planting trees that you're not actually going to bear the fruit from, so that generations down the line will actually. So some of these ideas that they've been, you know, seeding for decades and centuries and stuff are maybe it's just maybe they're just coming to fruition. We're about to actually pick an apple off that tree, you know, like, who knows? But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, well, we didn't really touch on the remote viewing stuff. I know this ended up being more of a
Canada rant.
Yeah, but
I was going to ask if there was any of that other stuff you wanted to mention. Actually, I was going to ask.
I mean, we could get into
the MKultra stuff at least.
Yeah, I mean, we could get into the Project Stargate stuff. I mean, that kind of plays into as far as like the remote viewing and stuff. It's all tied together, right? Like
because there were, as I mentioned earlier, there was so many sub projects in MKultra. There were quite a few that dealt with. Well, I think the beginning there were some where they were definitely looking for something in the mind, right? And you could tell there was things that they're talking about. They're looking at how to not necessarily remote view, but looking at ways to increase someone's potential to remote view, I guess. And then, it kind of did more meld into remote viewing, but that started with, what was the name of that? Was it ScanGate? Is kind of how remote. Yeah. That was before like the Project Stargate.
Yeah.
ScanGate and Grill Flame, and then that kind of went at the same time as Project Stargate.
Yeah. It's all framed always under academia. Like it's a lot of these. There's so many like you said, like paramilitary connections to the education system here. Even if you want to get it like, what was it, the GATE program, right? That took place in the US in the schools, kind of like searching for, there were different elements to the GATE program. There was like a psychological one, and then there was trying to find like, you know, people that were more attuned to like physics and math and all that. But that existed up here as well during the 80s and 90s. There was a big push for those programs. Again, they're not as widely talked about.
No.
And a lot of those people went on to teach at these universities and stuff like that. So I know like my elementary school had a version of the GATE program where you were showed, you know, weird ink blot paintings and made to listen to weird frequencies and stuff. And then
I remember the frequency shit. I remember that shit in school.
Yeah, and I mean that all ties into the MKultra stuff as well. So who knows what they were? I know it was more so to find these minds that they wanted to use, you know, to help further their programs. But I don't know, you know, you're sticking headphones on a 9-year-old kid and playing weird frequencies. Who knows what that does later on, right? And so there's a lot of these people, like you said, Jin. There's a big focus on academia here and science and whatever, but how many, you know, blockages were put in place for these people that, yeah, they're sort of the useful idiot thing, right? They're geniuses in their field, but not able to get past that certain level of cognitive function to be able to actually understand what they're a part of. We just did an episode on the Hutchison effect. Like John Hutchison, I don't know if you've ever heard of that guy, but he's like a physicist that was playing around, and like an electrical engineer that was playing around with frequencies and was able to like levitate stuff and fuse dissimilar metals like and objects together without burning them, and kind of like playing on the 0 point energy stuff as well. And you know, if you look him up, he never signed any contracts and stuff with like Lockheed or the Canadian military, the US. He was approached a bunch of times, but he kind of, you know, like, I don't want to say lost his mind, but he sort of went on this path of like obscurity, where now he's not taken seriously. Whereas like when he first came out of the gate with it, there was a lot of interest and people were like, oh, this guy's actually figured something out. And, you know, he decided not to play ball, and now all of a sudden he's this kook.
And he started to lose his mind. So the only thing he did sign was he signed an affidavit in 2008 stating that the Hutchison effect, his theory, was what he believed was responsible for what happened on 9/11, like what caused it.
Yeah.
And it was after that point that he went a little different.
Yeah. And to the point where now, like, he lives, I think he's on the Oregon coast now. He was in Vancouver for years and years and years, but he's down in the US now.
Living the van life.
Yeah, living the van life. And he's got to be in his late 70s now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, you know, it's again, it's those characters that they start to figure things out, and then for some reason something just like is triggered in their mind, and they're all of a sudden, you know, cross-dressing and wearing wigs, and no one takes them seriously. And you see, I know there's like dispute with like who wrote the Matrix movies and whatever, but you look at those brothers too, right? Like the Matrix comes out and kind of cracks the zeitgeist open for people, and then all of a sudden they're like identifying as women, and kind of, you know, it's just a weird pattern that you can notice with these sort of like great minds, in a sense. I don't, you know, I'm probably giving them a little too much credit, but I don't know. Does that make sense?
To me, it makes perfect sense, because before, when people used to come up, get to that level, they just used to disappear. Nowadays, social media, you just can't disappear people. So what else could you do but help them along the crazy path?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
That's that, or a honeypot. Even the honeypot doesn't work. That doesn't work. That technique doesn't work the same way anymore. So yeah, you have to make them look loopy. That's it.
Yeah.
Loopy.
I was gonna, so that when you were talking about the tests that you had in school, and you said the headphones, was it like the Monroe
binaural beats
So that's what I was
stuff?
gonna
Yeah.
ask. Yeah, because
Yeah.
when we did our episode on remote viewing, it was more kind of on the Monroe Institute because there was one close by where we live, and that's kind of what got us into wanting to do that episode. And then it closed down over COVID and blah blah blah. But yeah, that was one. So that the binaural beats method of the Monroe Institute is quite interesting because not now, it's been available for a long time, but anyone can do it, right? Like that's their whole thing is that you buy this tape, you listen to these beats in your ear, and it gets your brain in the proper wave frequency to be able to remote view better, I guess.
Yeah, it puts you in a delta state, I believe it
yeah.
is, which is like a dream state.
Sidesteps meditation, because for like I find it very hard to meditate myself. I can, but it's very hard. It's supposed to sidestep that, like a side door in, I guess, is the idea.
Yeah, and it was treated as like it's like a retreat that you could go to at the Monroe Institute and spend a week learning how to do this. And
I'm sorry, I was gonna, because you and I you've told me this story, but very briefly. When you had that on, do you remember what you were doing when you had
there was a lot of like like interpreting different paintings and drawings and things like that. So
with the headphones on and with the
I was so I got pulled out of like regular class and put into this whatever. I'm assuming it was just I didn't know what it was at the time. Obviously, it was like between the ages of 9 and 11. And so it was like 3 or 4 kids out of each grade, and then we'd go to the like a room in the library and run through these different tests. And there were different like cognitive tests, there was like memory tests, there were things like that. I think they realized early on that I was a little too dumb for that, and because everyone else that was in that, I know now are like doctors and mathematicians and stuff like that, and I was
doesn't mean you're dumb.
Well, yeah, well, it's up for debate, but it was definitely weird. And the people that like I said continued on with that program ended up going down that academic route. It was really weird. The teacher that hosted it and ran the program he had a degree in psychology. Like he was degreed up, and it didn't really make sense why he chose to be an elementary school teacher. Like like my sister is a teacher, and she's a smart woman and whatever, but this guy had like stacks and stacks of degrees, and like why you would choose to make at the time probably $40K a year to teach a bunch of snot-nosed kids when you could be like running a practice or something just never really made sense to me. But I don't know I don't know how I'm a millennial as well, Jin, so I don't know if you remember these programs in school as well.
It's interesting. I went to university, or not university, excuse me. Most of my schooling was done in Hong Kong and the US.
Okay.
So I went to international school for the majority of my life. But obviously I went to university in Canada, and I started out grade 1 and 2 here. So it is interesting that even though I went to international school, I actually encountered certain elements of these things that people talk about, but I've never been able to find like what that's called, or like if it was associated or it was just like a thing. Like I remember they would make me so we took some standardized tests. I lived somewhere, and we took like the state standardized test. Even the private school had to take it, and I got a perfect score on it, which had never happened before. And so they didn't believe that I could have done it. But it was more about that I have just a high reading IQ. Like I'm a very like good reader, and I also speak multiple languages. So I think that actually played a bigger part in why I did well. And so they kept making me retake it. And then afterwards they made me do like an audio test. And so I remember like hearing like the beeping thing. The thing is I was really rebellious. So if they were like drink pink Kool-Aid, I would have definitely said no. I'm just saying for me. That's for me. But I understand that every kid is different, but it's just for me. So, but on the test thing, I actually remember deliberately screwing up so I wouldn't have to retake it. So that's basically how I dealt with that situation, but it was very strange. Like over the course of like 3 to 4 weeks, I would just remembered like them being very like hammering home, like, and I was always proctored. It wasn't like I could cheat, and it's not like it's a standardized test. It's like the questions aren't exactly like, it's not like the internet. It's not like today's world where you could cheat. It's like they're totally random things. And I was like in what, like sixth grade. So I remember things being very weird, but I always assumed that, yeah, that probably is true. They're like, they're kind of like, they're looking for future recruits for certain programs to see certain people's personality archetypes and like what they study in university. Interestingly enough, I did study very spook friendly majors in university, but I never got approached. And I know people who did, but I never did. So obviously I was just too rebellious.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it was kind of similar for me. Like I did really well in, I was like, I started reading and writing really, really young. Like I was reading books at like age 4, like full on novels and stuff at age 4. And I got my first thing published when I was in grade 3. And then a couple more things published after that. They're just like short stories or whatever, like nothing crazy. But I think that's why I initially got pulled in, was just because I had this ability to like create different worlds, and I had the ability to sort of disseminate information in a way that like the average 9-year-old couldn't. But I also was like kind of ADHD. So like they're trying to run these tests and I'm like, drawing pictures in a book and like drawing devil horns on historical figures and stuff. So like I think it was just they realized early on, like, we're not going to really be able to get through to this kid because he's just not paying attention. So I just saw it as a way to get out of class. That's what I remember. It was like, I don't have to sit in class with these other dopes. I can just go here and like whatever, mess around. But yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure they wrapped those programs up by like the mid 90s, like mid to late 90s. I think by 98, 99, they were done. So I don't know.
Can I ask, when did they start those programs?
From what I understand, like the gate program started in the early 80s, I think. Like might have been the late 70s, but it ran for about 20 years. And there were, like I said, different elements of it. So some were focused on, memory recall and psychology, and then some were focused on mathematics, and some were focused on other things. I'm sure there was probably even like a physical aspect to it. I saw actually when we started the show, someone made a comment about that Harvey or Harley Panas. Oh, what's his name?
Pasternak.
Yeah. That personal trainer, that
Handler.
He's a CSIS guy. And he was involved with like Kanye West, Ellen Page, right before she turned into Elliot Page. And he's been tied to like a lot of like always like
Brittany Murphy.
Yeah, Brittany Murphy, always around when these celebrities have these like psychological breakdowns, and he's just a personal trainer, right? He's like got a degree in kinesiology and stuff like that. So he apparently works for CSIS, or worked for CSIS, as a developing different programs for just like, physical health and things like that. But just, it's a guilty by association kind of thing, because he's always seems to be around, and like, threatens to, with the Kanye situation. I'm pretty sure he's the one that put him in an institution there for a little while. He was responsible for him getting taken away. So, and Canadian, Toronto born, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, went to McMaster's. So so even though like the boys were talking about how the MK stuff started at McGill, it's actually permeated throughout the entire, because all Canadian universities are public. So you have people traveling through to different programs. Like someone will like get a job from U of T over at SFU, and they'll do like neuropsychology research. So it's like seed programs, like just by being associated with, by seeding McGill, which is like our quote unquote Harvard. That's what at least people like to think of it as. You're actually seeding talent through the whole country, and you're seeding the programs through the entire country. So that is interesting. And like McMaster is not like a particularly tied into like military defense like think tanks or anything like that. But it is interesting to think that they actually are, because they have like their whole like diet program and work and physical fitness program is actually very much tied to the military and to military intelligence.
And
So
Gordy Rose, or is it Jordy?
Jordy
Rose, that he's one of the quantum like AI pioneers, the quantum AI pioneer, went to McMaster as well.
He started D-Wave
D-Wave
quantum
quantum
computers, which
computer.
are they now have contracts with like
The military.
Yeah, U.S. Department of Defense and things like that. So one of the first like quantum computers that was ever in existence. Yeah. He's no longer involved. He left, I think it was, when was it again? Like early 2000s or something like that. Or 2012 or something like that. But yeah, just, you know, again, like you wouldn't think that quantum computing effectively started in Canada, but it did. You know, you wouldn't think that MKultra was like seeded and beta tested in Canada, but it was. Yeah.
So you say quantum computing, that's really interesting, because I just interviewed someone from my show who does crystal quantum computing, and he's based in Montreal. He worked at the CERN lab. He went to McGill, and he's a crazy mathematician, and he's a Kabbalist too, but he's also my friend. So he's actually a good dude, and he would actually like to see, he's very Robert Anton Wilson pilled. So he would love to see like the archons crumble, in his words. So, you know, he says that he's doing it to like break us out of the klipas or whatever. So let's see what happens. I don't want to black pill totally on quantum computing, simply because I actually think it could be really useful. And the way that he does it is you actually buy 90s rigs and you can actually build your own local AI. So it's actually pretty cool. Like some of the ideas that are coming out of Canada, I just think that it's going to be about like what people choose to put their time, attention, and money into. And if people like just are like passive agents and are like, we're going to leave it to the government, which is usually what Canadians tend to do, then it'll probably be, you know, worse things will turn out.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not by no means like anti-technology or anything like that. I think it's just, you know, intent is everything. So but unfortunately, yeah, like people get wind of this technology and then want to be the ones to control it. It was the same thing with that Hutchison effect stuff. It's like he was kind of trying to figure out 0-point energy so we could have these batteries that lasted for 1,000 years. And like, well, you can't have that, right? You need to buy a new phone every couple of years. You need to buy, they want, you know, the money machine has to keep going. And that's hard to do when everyone's, you know, has access to the technology. So, and with that D-Wave thing, like as soon as Jordy left, it was the new people that took over. That's when the contracts started with, you know, they have contracts with Lockheed Martin, with their new like international director or whatever was like sat on what was she, like the secretary, like a secretary of defense at one point or something like that.
Yeah, they're all
So it's just like it's all about control. And like you said, Canadians are very, very quick to just like hand it over to the government, because it's like, well, you just deal with this. There you go.
Being able to have your own AI to build, though, I like that concept. That's a great.
Yeah,
I think that could be a win, because that's my worry about AI is it's built by someone else who's going to have biases and yada yada yada, like the whole, and you know what I mean. But being able to build your own quantum AI or your own AI program, I think procure your own materials, kind of thing. I think that would be a very good way to go.
Yeah, like true open source.
Yeah,
yeah,
and then break away from the archontic system, right? Of whenever you're searching for anything, you can't find it because it's not going to let you find it.
Yeah,
unless you go find the book, the actual physical book, right?
Yeah. It's all about control. Always about control. So,
as the one who has control of the show, Nick, what would you like to talk about next?
Oh, I was going to ask. Do you guys have anything else that you wanted to talk about? Or I mean, we're about an hour and a half in, so I mean, you either wrap it up or we can talk about something else. It's up to you.
I mean, we've sort of broken down all the the history of the MKultra stuff, and outside of, you know, really just making the connections to today and the way our media and stuff works up here. It's, yeah, I don't have too much else to break down with that. But I guess if you guys have any, yeah.
No, I was what I'm saying. You know, the show's long enough. I was just letting you, you know, get anything out in case you didn't say anything.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm on a totally other offshoot. I'm interested to see what happens at the Super Bowl later today.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Not just like, you know, we're you know, false flag territory and all that. It's the only, I found out it's the first Super Bowl that's being broadcast in like every country. That's never happened
Actually,
before.
every country.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, you know,
just
yeah.
like they could shut the shit out of everybody.
Yeah, that's
Wasn't it him and I were joking around because we do hang out outside of the show, but you were joking around that you thought it was going to be this is going to be a good blue beam.
It would be a
opportunity,
blue beam opportunity. It's either that or the Olympics. They're running in tandem.
It's like either UFO and Jesus lands in the fuck.
Yeah,
and I think if I don't think anyone will respond to either. They'll just push them out of the way so they can keep watching the game until Bad Bunny gets up there, and then probably leave. But anyway, yeah. No, I personally have nothing to add either, other than to say thank you for having us on.
Yeah,
as we are new to this, we were both. At least I can't speak for you, but I was quite nervous. I think coming on here, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to have us on and to listen to us spew nonsense about our country and other stuff. And I'm sorry we didn't get into remote viewing or the Monroe Institute, but it is a show that we're going to have on our podcast soon. So anyone who is interested in that, if you listen to our podcast, you'll be able to get more of that stuff in kind of a bit more detail with links and the like.
Yeah. Trying to not bounce around too much on things, but I appreciate Jen you jumping in and kind of steering the ship a few times there as well, because I probably would have just gone off and started talking about something.
I'm sure Nick is like, "Oh my God, Jen, shut up about Canada." But he knows that I rarely get to like, this is like such a rare niche, like kind of parapolitics lane that I even get to indulge my like. I have many autisms, and this is definitely one of them, but it's one of my most niche like interests. So I appreciate that you both came on. We're really good sports about it, probably not knowing who I was. Obviously, Nick, and like his companion of late, Judith. But you know, I kind of jumped on, and you didn't know what you were going to get. So I appreciate that you both were like cool and kind of allowed me to meander as well through this thing, which is very much part of Canada. And I think that was the kind of like the point of how far ranging our conversation was. It's like, it's very embedded. Like the deep state is not some like secret, like underground cabal. No, it is like your auntie who works at like Indian Affairs or like North or like, you know, or Resource Canada. Like that is what it is. So, you know, I think if people can recognize that and start to like see it for what actually it is, I don't think things will change, but I think at least people's perception will be a little clearer.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, no, it's we're here to learn, and ultimately, you know, that's what it's about, is just kind of like opening those doors, following those rabbit holes and seeing where it takes you. So yeah, very appreciative of you guys letting us on here. It was a lot of fun.
Hell yeah, no, I was looking forward to it, man. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for having me on a while ago too. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, that was a great show. We've been referencing the term Nazi magic like every day.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And it's funny, the MKultra is essentially is Nazi magic, right?
Yeah.
Because Cameron learned all this stuff from not learned all of it from Hess, but I think that's where he kind of got a little twisted and learned how to use drugs to get people to say things and do things that they might not otherwise do. And
yeah, he was taking notes for sure.
Yeah. And here we are, how many years later, and Nazi magic still being used.
I was like, they distort perception just without drugs now.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, thank you guys again for coming on. Before we wrap it up, Judith, let everybody know where they can find all your stuff, please.
Thank you. And actually, I'm gonna say it wrong. Your radio name as
EH-soteric.
EH-soteric. Sorry, EH-soteric Archives. Actually, thank you for being on, because I did not realize how deep it went into Canada. So that really enlightened me and scares me at the same time, but that's beside the point. But I say thank you for enlightening us. I hope I see you again soon. I will check out your show. And I could be found on YouTube and on X as The Loon. And I just had this morning, I had my episode on journaling, and I'm putting together a Valentine episode. So hopefully come and catch it. And Nick, thank you for having me. And Jen, it's always a pleasure.
Thanks, Judith. Appreciate it. Of course. Likewise.
Oh, yeah. No, thank you for coming on, Judith. Appreciate it. Always fun. And Jen the Ninja, please.
Well, of course. Thanks, boss. Appreciate it for always sending me invites, allowing me to pick and choose the shows that I do. I do appreciate that. Honestly, it is like yeah, no, I mean, it makes it fun, right? Because I can't always do everything, but at least I can come on with you and like hang out for 2 hours and like you and Judith. And that's, I like a smaller panel, so it works out for me. So I want to say thank you guys from the Esoteric Archives. I know you guys are a newer show. I remember how it was. My show's very different, but I really appreciate that you guys are like out there doing the work, and podcasting is an incredibly magical, tumultuous, and it can be rather incredible too. So for sticking it out for 4 months, I think that's great, legit, because a lot of people just do one episode and quit. So just keep going with it. I think you guys came and brought it, and I think it's to hear the story of MK being so part and parcel to the world. I think that is the true story. It's that, like, what is MK? Well, MK is everything. Everything's MK. It's just, do you choose to believe it or not? So yeah, I think it comes down to like a very human question of perception. So with all that being said, if you want to follow me, check me out at Wukong Reborn, WUKONG Reborn on X Twitter, or on IG and X Twitter, the show account at least, Threshold Saints, or thresholdsaints.substack.com, or The True Grey Lodge, TRVE greylodge.com, which is our meta magic show on every other Friday, live on X, recorded for YouTube. So you can also like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. So thank you guys all, and amazing show, really fun for me at least, and I hope everybody else got something out of it too.
Oh, yeah, no, I enjoyed it. Thank you, Jen, for coming on too. I appreciate it. And last but not least, guys, please, Esoteric Archives, let everybody know what's up with you guys.
Yeah, for sure. We're just we got lots of guests coming up. We do a show we drop every Saturday, typically, unless we got something going on, we can't, but we do our best to drop a weekly show. We're going to start doing more of these lives and kind of diving into it a little bit more here, so as time permits. So yeah, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all the places at the Esoteric Archives. That's EH-soteric. And yeah, happy to be here, happy to be part of the community, and thanks everyone for listening.
Yeah, thanks so much for the time, guys. Really appreciate it.
Oh, for real, I appreciate you guys coming on. Had a blast. Yeah, and everybody in the chat, I really appreciate that as well. Later on tonight, I think at 6:30, I scheduled it for when the Super Bowl drops. Me and Judith had a show yesterday with Cherry Power doing Santa Muerte, and that will be dropping premiere at 6:30. So if people are still around, that will be dropping as well. So you can check that out. And yeah, everybody in the chat, that's what's up. I appreciate you all here. That's why we go live. I enjoy seeing you all and seeing what you leave in the chat. And until the next one, everybody be well.